Hey everyone, and a very warm welcome, especially to our colleagues joining from the EcoLoop project. Today, we are going to get into a topic that's, well, it's absolutely essential for Austria's sustainable future. We're talking about the big shift from selling products to providing services. All right, before we really dive in, just a quick heads up. This explainer was co-funded by the European Union, and as always, the views and opinions you'll hear are from the authors of the source material we're breaking down today. So, here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at where the gaps are in Austria's current circular economy. Then, we're going to explore a really powerful new model that could fix things. We'll weigh the pros and cons, the advantages and the hurdles. And finally, we'll get to what might be the most important piece of the whole puzzle. Okay, let's get right into the heart of the challenge. Austria has a great reputation for things like waste collection. But is that the full picture? Not quite. When you peel back the layers, you start to see some pretty major gaps that are really holding the country back from going fully circular. This number right here, it tells a huge part of the story. At about 11.2%, Austria's circular material use rate is, well, it's average. It's right around the EU mean. And what that tells us is that while they're great at the first step, collecting stuff, that crucial next step of actually getting those materials back into the economy, that's where things slow down. It's a massive opportunity just waiting to be seized. And here's the thing, it's not just one problem. It's a whole web of issues all tangled together. We're losing incredibly valuable materials because they're being downcycled or worse, just burned. The small and medium-sized businesses, the engine of the economy, they're hitting all sorts of walls trying to get involved. And then you have this regional imbalance, where all the cool innovation is happening in just a couple of cities. On top of all that, the actual infrastructure for repair and remanufacturing just isn't there yet. And the big one, the one that affects everything else, is a serious economy-wide skills gap. So, you see the problem. It's complex. So what's the way forward? Well, that brings us to a really exciting model, one that could totally flip the script. It's called product to service, or P2S for short. The core idea here is so simple, but it changes everything. Instead of buying a thing, you pay for what the thing does. Think about it. You don't really want to own a light bulb, right? You want light. You don't want to own a complex piece of machinery. You want it to perform a task. With P2S, the whole focus shifts from selling a physical object to delivering a result, an ongoing service. Now, this is what I find so cool about it. P2S isn't just a fancy word for leasing. It's a whole system. It's about bundling products with services like maintenance. It's about focusing on the outcome for the customer. And crucially, it forces companies to think about a product's entire life cycle. Why? Because they still own it. So suddenly, it makes business sense to design things that last, that are easy to repair and reuse. And of course, it's tailor-made for today's world, using data to predict when things need fixing. It's super flexible, too. It can be anything from a simple sharing platform to a complex pay-per-use contract. Okay, so what's the big payoff? Why would a company go through all the trouble to make this switch? Well, the benefits are huge, and they hit on every level: ecological, economic, and digital. I mean, look at this. It's basically a triple win scenario. For the planet, it's a game changer. Products are used longer, more efficiently, which means less waste and less resource drain. For the business, you get stable, predictable revenue instead of one-off sales. You build incredibly strong, long-term relationships with your customers, and you get to compete on how great your service is, not just on who's cheapest. And from a tech perspective, you're using smart digital tools to deliver a better, more responsive experience. It just makes sense. But let's be realistic. A shift this fundamental isn't easy. It's not a walk in the park. There are some very real challenges that companies have to navigate to make P2S work. So let's talk about those hurdles. This slide shows you the two sides of the coin perfectly. The challenges on the left are no joke. Your cash flow completely changes when you go from a big upfront sale to small payments over time. You need to build whole new systems for taking products back and fixing them. And maybe the biggest hurdle is cultural, getting your team to stop thinking about moving units and start thinking about delivering value. But for every single one of those hurdles, there is an incredible benefit on the other side. That tricky cash flow turns into stable, recurring revenue. That complex logistics system makes you more resilient. That tough mindset shift, it leads to fiercely loyal customers. And all of it, brings us to the one factor that will make or break this entire transition. It's not the technology, it's not the business model, it's the people. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? We can have the best ideas and the smartest tech in the world, but the circular economy won't build itself. It has to be built, run, and improved by people who have the right skills and, just as importantly, the right mindset. So what does that mean in the real world? It means we need a whole new playbook of skills. We need people who can think in systems, who see the whole picture. We need people who are amazing at building relationships with customers, not just closing a sale. We need folks who are comfortable using data, who understand the entire life cycle of a product, from design to disposal. And this is so important. Our education system, especially vocational training, has to step up. It has to start preparing people for these new jobs that blend tech, service, and sustainability all into one. Which really leaves us with the million-dollar question, right? We know what we need to do, but how do we do it? How do we build these skills for thousands of people? How do we close that massive gap between having a great strategy on paper and making it a reality on the factory floor in every region of Austria? That's the challenge, and it's exactly what projects like EcoInnovate are working to solve. Thank you so much for your attention. This explainer was brought to you by the EcoInnovate project, which is co-funded by the European Union.